that they can spread out through the city and show people who we are, and what we can do. We are a very diverse police department today. Thank you for these two gentlemen here. We make sure that we understand who we are, what we are, and where we came from. Again, thank you, Mr. Jackson. So community policing is just that, being involved in the community. We just don't want to see an officer drive through a community. We want to see an officer become a part of that community. And that's what we started off with, that officer being able to go wherever we want to go in this city.
So, Dr. Davis, you've been watching from the academic perch to some extent and keeping a foot in the ground. How is community policing evolving in the city and in the surrounding area in your view?
Well, I thank the chief on his adaptation of community policing. When I was fortunate enough to benefit from the sacrifices of those 12 courageous officers and become the first African-American police chief, I don't wear that necessarily as something that I embrace to say that I'm special or I did something special, because I know that there were individuals within that group of 12 who were quite capable of becoming police chief, but with the racism and other factors that they had to face, it wasn't going to become a reality. For example, Freddie Lee Crawford went on to the Justice Department and he went on to run the corrections offices down and the whole Department of Corrections in Dade County. And more importantly, he was so committed to his form and their form of policing, where we in the community knew our police officers and what have you. And he was also committed to trying to bring more African Americans into the fold. So he started as a businessman, a security agent called Zenith Security, where individuals had an opportunity to taste enforcement before coming on to the police department. So under their tutelage, when I became chief, I instituted 3 tenets: respect, accountability, and integrity. And that was to ensure that our police officers would respect the individuals that they encountered, they would be responsible for their jobs, and they would operate under the utmost integrity. And under the integrity component, I also implemented a policy that if you lie, you fight, because we can't have effective community policing if police officers are going to be out lying and putting people in jail that didn't need to be there. Now, a lot of it was controversial, but community policing, if executed appropriately, and I can tell you that we have executed it appropriately, because the city of St. Petersburg and the citizens that exist here absolutely love their police department. And they love the officers who work there. And I was fortunate enough to be tutored and have role models, such as the 12 individuals that we're here to honor tonight.
I think that's well said, and I want to ask Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, when you hear all this conversation about community policing, you've shared with me over the years some nuggets of insight along the deuces in particular. What did community policing look like when you started and was nicknamed Babyface?
Oh man.
Tell us, where did this start?
I'm gonna start from the beginning. My name is Leon Jackson, and I am one of the Courageous 12. The Courageous 12 were 12 African American police officers. In 1965, we filed a lawsuit against the city of St. Petersburg and St. Petersburg Police Department for discrimination and to fully integrate the police department. During that time, we African American police officers could not work any desk jobs inside the police station. We were always assigned to work in the so-called colored neighborhood only. We could only investigate people of color. We could only arrest people of color. Our lockers were located together in the corner near the back door. In 1965, when we filed that lawsuit, there were one sergeant, 2 detectives, and 12 uniform officers. Those 2 detectives could work cases only in the colored neighborhood. The white police officers could work cases all over the city. So we 12 uniform officers started talking about the barrier against us, racial barrier against us. So we started talking, having meetings among ourselves to discuss the racial barrier that was against us. And out of one of those meetings, we decided to request a meeting with the chief of police. And those complaints were centered around assignments or promotions. Where we could work only in the colored neighborhood. And the chief did not do anything about our complaints. And I'm going to share one thing he told us. And it was a slap in the face in that meeting. He said, the reason you colored police officers are working in the colored neighborhood, the police department feel that you can have colored people better. And to us, that's what a slap in the face. Because the white police officers were working all over the city. Why can't we work all over the city? And that's what we told him. And we didn't hear anything else. So we had 2 meetings with the chief of police. And he didn't do anything about our complaints. And we request a 3rd meeting with the chief of police. And he refused to meet with us anymore. So we, Adam Baker and Freddie Crawford, met with James Samuel at Dr. Pharmacy and discussed the lawsuit that we made. And they invited him to our meetings. And he discussed the lawsuit, and he agreed to represent us as our lawsuit, as our lawyer. On May 11, 1968, attorney James Samuel filed a lawsuit in federal court in Tampa for we 12 officers. On May 11, 1968, we went to federal court in Tampa, and Judge Joseph Lee ruled against us and ruled in favor of the police department and the city, that meant that we had lost that lawsuit. But we didn't give up. So Attorney Sandlin contacted the NAACP and asked the NAACP would they file the appeal for us at no cost. And the appeal ruled in our favor, and the appeal signed that lawsuit and agreed to represent us. On August 1st, 1968, the appeals court ruled in our favor, and we won that lawsuit.
You documented that journey in the Urban Buffalo Soldiers, which is the book we have available. One of the questions that keeps coming up is, how did you fund that? Where did the funding for the original complaint come?
Good question. We funded that original lawsuit. We paid $5, $10, $15 pay period. We wasn't making a lot of money, but we paid $5, $10, maybe $15 to pay for the original lawsuit. That's how dedicated we were for that lawsuit.
After the NAACP came in, did their defense fund take over the appeal?
Yes, the legal defense fund took over that lawsuit. And the late Leroy Clark of the NAACP in Washington became the lawyer for our appeal. And I never met him. And I hope I would have met him, because he did a magnificent job. And he was this lawsuit was in the 5th Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans. And you sit here now, there's one case is in the 5th Circuit Court, I think in Texas, that is a very conservative appeal lawsuit. And I think, why in the heck did in 1965, they let us win the lawsuit, but today, now they're conservative. And I can't understand it.
Well, that's the reason why we need to stay awake and be conscious here in our conversation. Chief Holloway, talk to us about the legacy of the Courageous 12 in terms of how St. PPD in particular, and I know you have a national perspective, you just came back from Memphis, Tennessee, but when you think about the Courageous 12's accomplishments, how has that helped decades of other BIPOC officers for the future? How has their accomplishment and their victory impacted St. Pete Police Department today?
I think it's given us a roadmap to where we are today. And let me add on to that. We want to make sure that it's never forgotten what they've done. So the way we make sure that happens is every officer, he or she's hired with the St. Pete Police Department, they spend a day at the Carter Woodson Museum. They get a chance to talk to Mr. Jackson to see what happened. The most important part of it is we make them read the book. So that's required. So that's just part of it, making sure that we don't forget and how how this can expand throughout, not only just here in St. Pete, but throughout the nation. So we also had the officers walk the trail with Mr. Jackson. They can't walk in the same steps, but they get to walk the trail with Mr. Jackson so they can see where he walked. And most importantly, as you say, continued growth is no sergeant for past 8 years. When they take the exam, they have to read the book because that's part of the promotion process.
So there's clear impact there. Dr. Davis, you are turned to a lot to give insight around organizational management and systems. What else do we need to be doing to make sure that racial equity is still connected to the victory and the courage of the Courageous 12?
Well, when you look nationally and you look at the complexion and the gender of police officers, as well as police chiefs and sheriffs and what have you, you can see the work of the Courageous 12 being reflected. We have a plethora now of African-American police chiefs who are women as well as men. But I think when you think outside of law enforcement, you have to understand that the Courageous 12, while they made a significant impact on the profession, they were larger than that. And when I say larger than that, I think it's incumbent upon us to focus on the term courageous, because you take an individual like Adam Baker, who was fed up with the St. Pete police situation. His name is the name that the suit is filed with, Baker versus the city of St. Petersburg. Filed suit, went on to New York State and became a high-ranking official in a private company, General Electric. You think, as I said before, about a guy by the name of Jimmy King, who embraced Freddie Lee Crawford's desire to bring more people on to the police department of color. And Jimmy, once he retired from the police department, worked extensively to recruit and to promote. You think of Keys, and you think of individuals like P.K. Killen and Johnny Lee Lewis. Now, they would get the style points as Courageous 12 officers, because P.K. and Johnny B were probably two of the sharpest dressers you ever wanted to lay eyes on. But Johnny B actually managed Zenith's security. P.K. was known in the organization as not only being a snap dresser, but he was an icon when it came to traffic enforcement, traffic accidents, and how you investigate those things. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us who are here tonight to leave here with a commitment to being courageous, to address all of the other issues that the Courageous 12 would address if they were still here. Our surviving member does it all the time when he interfaces with kids in high school and what have you. Our kids are having tremendous problems in the Petersburg County school system. Parents, your kids are getting degrees that are called concordance, and they don't meet the standard requirements for a high school diploma. Which means that many of them can't get into the military with them or whatever. So I knew and worked with Keys and Nero and many of those officers. And I knew a lot of them because as a little kid, they would come and sit on your porch and wait to see when the one in subject would run by and leap off and go and get them. But I knew them because they would always say, go to school, do what you need to do, get your education. And they were involved in all aspects of the community and what have you. And I'm appealing to everyone here tonight to leave here and continue to support your police. Continue to support the Courageous 12. But I want you to go a little further. Because I used to say all the time, from an organizational perspective, when I was police chief, and Howard Hinesley was the superintendent in charge of education, that we have to change the nature of our relationship, Mr. Hinesley. And he would say, what do you mean by that? I said, every time you fail a kid, I win. Because we're going to put them somewhere in this criminal justice system. I don't want to win. I want to be the failure, and I want you to be the success. And I say that to say that their influence and their impact is greater than law enforcement. Let's all be courageous. Let's stand up for our history. Yes. I was surprised to see that those guys did it tonight. Let's get involved with our kids. Yes. Let's know what they're doing. Let's make sure that they're doing homework. Let's get involved. And let's put some pressure on the school system to ensure that our kids are getting standard diplomas and not concordance diplomas that will not even allow them to go to college.
That's good. Major point. Come on, let's get up to that. We're build on that, but I want to invite you, if you have questions, we're going to have about a 15-minute window to write those questions. I know there are cards on the table. Harold and Marcus have a plan to collect those, and we'll come back to you after this question. So, Chief Holloway, there is a big conversation nationally about law enforcement reform. We're coming up on the George Floyd Memorial on the 25th of May. In terms of law enforcement's, and for us, St. Petersburg Police Department's investment in the community, you give an awful lot and require the agency representatives participate in role modeling and youth programs in community outreach. An example of that. Why is that important, and what do we need to do moving forward? What else needs to be done?
Well, we look at it this way here, as Dr. Lodge said, losing. I look at it as that we need to build together. Because every time you see an officer, it should be a negative contact. It should be a positive contact. Every time an officer comes into your neighborhood, you should see them there to arrest someone in the community. You should see them coming into the community to help someone in the community. And that's the only way we're going to do it, by working together, by bringing our community up. You know, I always tell officers, I don't care how many arrests you make. Tell me how many people you know in the community. Tell me how many children you have helped in the community. Tell me how many programs that we have in the community. Then turn around the other ways. If we do take money off the street from our drug dealers, or we do take money from other people, how do we turn that money around and to invest in something good, like our children, to get our children back on track, to get our community back on track? Because that's what we need. We need to, as a community and as law enforcement, how do we turn this around? Because, as I say, I'm tired of locking up our youth. I am so tired of locking up our youth. I want to see our youth go someplace. I want to see them sit up here one day on stage. I want to see them one day run our government, run our big corporations. But the only way we're going to do that is by working together and achieving something with our children in our community.
All right, thank you.
Can I add one thing? You know, I tell people all the time, that this is a political situation. And y'all know who we got as governor, so I want to tell you, you know what's happening. They want us to know our history, a whole host of things. Creating police departments to arrest individuals who've gone to jail, done their time, and gotten out. But now they don't want them to vote. So what I'm saying to you all is, keep one thing in mind. We have to vote more than once every 4 years. You gotta vote more than once every 4 years. Because your school board, your judges, and all of those local elections ultimately become your state representatives, your governors, your senators, and what have you. And you can see now what's happening with the body that we have in office. Now, how does that relate to the courageous? Well, be courageous. Do what they did. If they had stood up to do what they did to sue and take positive actions, we would still be, as police officers, walking down 22nd Street, always policing African American people without any power to do anything other. And I'm sitting here to tell you that we need that courageous component out of all of you, because if we don't get courageous and start taking some steps to save our children collectively, as the chief said, working together, we're gonna be in real big trouble.
Oh, yes.
Real big trouble.
Oh, yes.
No, I think that's an absolutely important point for us tonight, is not to think about the Courageous 12's accomplishments only in the frame of law enforcement, but to see that in our society as we defend and pursue our freedoms in every walk of life, right? That's what this is all about. Now, I think these gentlemen have been generous in their time, and we want to make sure that we turn the mic out there, you know, if we were in church. I'd say. Anybody got a question out there? But I know I see some questions over here. You have a mic?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go with that question from the right.
This question is from Al Bartel, chairman of World Human Rights Network. His question is, can community policing be viewed as a human rights solution for street violence?
Now, Chief Holloway, I'll point that to you. I know we had lots of conversation with World Partnerships Group. We just had a group in from Canada. Is this, there's some evidence or some possibilities for what